So I'm Dylan.
Hello, Dylan.
In this video, we are taking a quick look at In Rainbows, obviously by Radiohead, the 2007 release, seventh album. Uh, yeah. What else do I say?
Um,
Again,
I
first
think
time doing one
your
of these short
instructions
ones.
were introduce everyone else. I
Oh
waited for
yeah,
my
I'm here with
introduction.
Charlotte. I'm here with Charlotte and Ben. There you go.
Hi.
Hello,
Yeah,
in
just because
Loomis.
when we first started doing our little album club thing, it was just the three of us until
Mm.
maybe like well, until we had to all go home from uni because we were all gonna we had the fear of death
Die.
otherwise.
It's funny
Yeah.
looking back at kind of all the albums we've done because obviously this was the first one we did. And you say like before, like we only did something like 8 albums before
Did
like
we?
other people joined in. But obviously the period of time was so much longer because we were waiting
Mm.
every week. Some weeks there might have been 2 weeks. Like there was so much time like spent on these first few albums, and then the moment other people got involved, we just started like piling in
Sped
all the
run.
albums, doing
Because we were
so
doing
many
like
more.
two a week
Mm.
during lockdown. That
Uh,
was
yeah,
mad.
because it's so much easier to talk among us rather than format it over, a radio show like we did for
Mm.
these. So yeah, we just did what we wanted. Okay, but like I said, the first album we ever did was In Rainbows by Radiohead. So the way these videos are going to work, we're going to go through, highlight tracks, give our synopsis, and then rate it, and that's going to be it. Okay,
Nice. I have a question. It's
go.
for you, Dylan.
Yes.
Well, it's a question I've been wondering.
Yeah.
Um, when you had the idea or you proposed the idea of album club to us, you already had this album in mind for the first
Uh,
album.
did
You,
I? Did I
this is
say that to
fact, you
you?
did. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah,
you
I think
said
yeah.
the night I met you, you were like, "We're doing in rainbows.
Mm.
Be ready."
Yeah, yeah.
Um, why? Why this album as the starter?
Um, well, I'm a big fan of Radiohead for starters, and but not in a depressing Rainbows way. As much as I do love Radiohead, this album just sticks out because it's so much more colorful and lively, and I just felt it would have been a really good listen that I think everyone should experience. Obviously, some people took that better than others, Ben. Um,
Yeah. I
but I honestly do think, well, to me personally, every time I listen to it, it's like wow to this album because it's you know every song has a different idea, which is given time and flourishes. The build-ups to every song are great. It's sonically so amazing to me. So I just felt it would have been a great experience for everyone. That may have been, well, everyone experiences music differently, which I understand more now. Never, but yeah. So that's to answer your question, why I chose this album. Should we get into? I mean, yeah, I started a bit of a synopsis there. Should I start? Should I go further into that?
Yeah, if you want to,
Keep
might as well.
going.
So, like I said, these songs are all they're all based on very different ideas, which I always appreciate in an album. And again, like I said, I'll say the palette of sounds. I say that because of how different and vibrant they are that contribute in these different tracks. It's always in just the right way, I feel, and it all rises slowly. It gets to a point where the whole band is there, however subtly, and then they always know when to give space in the song and to let everything open up. And I think In Rainbows is probably the best title they could have given this album. Even with the shortest track, Foul Start, which I know at the time we kind of laughed at, but like every moment off this album to me, I think like really brings something in a progression. It's really electronic and clunky sort of at the start with 15 Step and Body Snatchers, sort of bring it out of the part of their career that they were in, and then it evolves into songs like Nude and Weird Fishes, where it's a lot less. Well, it's just a mixture of everything, but you can really hear that they were doing what they always wanted to do, right? It's like this is them being free with their career. Um, I do believe this is the first album they recorded outside of a record deal, so I guess that explains it. Um, but honestly,
I was about. I'm
I couldn't
sorry.
recommend this album enough. The standout tracks for me, I'd probably say Jigsaw Falling Into Place. It's a very quick and varied song. It's probably the most accessible out of all of the songs, just because it's the sound, like the acoustic guitar is probably a lot easier on the ears to a newcomer. And I'll say probably All I Need is probably a great um song that sums up the album, just because of how it evolves and like really opens up in the end, like I said before. Uh, so yeah, I'll pass it on. I think we'll sandwich it between. So we'll put Ben, who's probably the most unsure, in the middle. So if Ben, if you want to go next.
Yeah,
Me with certainty? No.
I'll say this, as I've told you this before. I honestly think it's the most revisited album uh, from Album Club. So many albums, kind of after we leave on Album Club, I kind of get a hangover, and I'm like, no, I cannot listen to this anymore. Like even the good ones, like even the ones I really enjoy, like I'm just like, now I've listened to it a lot, I've reviewed it, we've analysed it, like I just need a break from it. Um, Whereas in Rainbows, there's always been one where I've been like, maybe I didn't quite get it. Maybe I'll just give it one last chance. I mean, I'll put it out there. I'm not. I mean, I'm not a fan of Radiohead, and they haven't quite done. They've never done enough for me to really like get excited by them. Aside from Body Snatchers, um, which to the day is probably the only Radiohead song I like. Although Jigsaw Falling Into Place is getting there. But yeah, but the more I've gone back to it, the more I've set my bias aside and appreciated where the album's been good. And I do feel like it flows well. And whilst necessarily I don't, maybe as even though I don't necessarily get each song and how it doesn't necessarily move me or make me feel anything, I can kind of see why it does, and I start to understand the flow more of it and just the way the album shapes up. And so over time, I've kind of appreciated it more. But I think when we first did it, I was just like, nah. I think I was too. I couldn't get past the I don't like Radiohead bit, which was affecting how I kind of saw the
You're
album.
not the only one. A lot of people get stuck at that.
But like again, like putting that aside, I've started to appreciate that actually it flows nicely. There is some really good bits in it, and it was actually kind of, now looking back at it, it was actually probably quite a good album to start with. Like in respect of it being a good album. In respect to like us struggling because we couldn't get past the Radiohead bit and less so. Charlotte, you wanna follow up?
With my certainty?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Right. I gotta say, I feel like because it was the first album, it has a bit of nostalgia to it, even though I don't really re-listen to it very often. Uh, but like, I think my issue with it is like the very start of 15 Step. I don't know, there's something about it that I don't quite like. So whenever I go back to listening to it, I'm kind of like, nah, I can't be bothered. But then it gets really good. Like I've made myself listen to it again, and I feel like I've been missing out a bit. So I upped my score. Um, yeah. Um, yeah, I think the first and last song aren't my cup of tea necessarily, which is disappointing to me because I feel like Videotape is the kind of song that would be right up my street. There is just something about it. I don't think it's a criticism of the song. I think it is my personal taste that there's something about it that just doesn't work for me. Jigsaw Falling Into the Place I can't remember, so I don't know why you guys are upping it up so much. I need to re-listen to that. Yeah, I think listening to it the first time, Nude was a massive standout to me. And then this time round, Weird Fishes and I don't even want to try and pronounce whatever the second word is.
Oh, Peggy.
Or Peggy, yeah.
Yeah. that transition into What Was Weird Fishes into that was very nice. I enjoyed that very much. That was snazzy. Although our Peggy is not very long. But yeah, I could have done with more of our Peggy.
All right.
Yeah, that's my summary.
It does just make me happy that the two of you have come back to this album and have like such highlights. Like you were saying, it brings you nostalgia about it being the first album we ever did, but like imagine how I feel, who knew this album and loved this album before we even did it.
Also, I feel like, I don't know, I haven't listened to any other Radiohead, but I feel like I've had other Radiohead thrust upon me. I couldn't be sure because I don't actually know if it was Radiohead or not, but I think
Yeah.
I was hearing a Radiohead song literally just like 30 minutes ago.
They're about, like, honestly, some of their songs get around, but it's disappointing to me that the songs from this album don't. I guess because they're more of an experience rather
They're
than
more for the album almost.
yeah.
Flavor. Like, if you had to pick a song that was most from this album that was most representative of the rest of their stuff.
I think of the rest of their stuff.
Yeah, like if there is one. If there isn't, then
their early career, probably the first two songs from earlier than this, and in terms of their oh gosh, I don't even know, but in terms of their later stuff, it gets a lot more electronic.
How much stuff they done?
Way slower after that. So maybe I'll show you another time. But
we should do another Radiohead album.
Maybe we should.
Should we discuss our scores?
Let's move on. Yeah. It's the scores. So I'll go first. I believe I gave this album a 9.
Yeah.
Not quite a 10, I think, because, I think it's only at 2 tracks and one of them short. I would have loved for there to be another 1 or 2. And if they were at the same caliber as the rest of them, I feel that would have been maybe what tipped it over. I do feel there only being 9 songs that hurts it a little bit for me. And maybe, I mean, yeah, I guess that's it. I don't know how much of my personal bias goes into my score, but it does. This album does honestly talk to me. So yeah, 9, I'd say.
My score's kind of fluctuated. So I think originally I gave it a 7 on the show, and then went down to a 6 when I kind of redid all my scores, and now it's back up to I do generally think it's back up to a 7. Like, for me, a lot of the stuff kind of, I mean, the stuff which stood out for me, like, was kind of the flow of the album, and the concept. Not necessarily concept in theme, but just concept more in sound. And the sound and the variety in the album's really nice. But then I think it is let down by the few. I mean, as we already said, like, not many of these songs get much recognition. Not many get played out in many places. I think, that kind of hurts it a little bit. And like Charlotte's already said a bit, the start and the end don't quite sit with me. So I'm quite happy giving it a 7. Like, there's been a lot of kind of indecision for me about what score this album deserves, but I do think 7's a fair score for it. Yeah.
Great. Should we go ahead, Charlotte?
Yeah. I don't know why I was so enthusiastic. I think I can't remember what I originally gave it because we rejigged all of our scores at some point. But it was sitting at a 7 just now, but I decided to up it to an 8.
Nice.
And I did that because, you know what I was saying about my really terrible attention span and just not being able to get through albums without losing the plot a little bit. This one actually keeps me going. You know, like, I feel like there's enough variety in it. Like, every song is so individual that it's kind of refreshing, but it doesn't necessarily lose the sense of unity that it has. I'm not going to necessarily say flow because I'm not sure if I feel like it flows, but it definitely feels united. 8. I give it 8.
Oh, brilliant.
I think I gave it 8. I can't remember.
Yeah, that is what you should see. All right, that's our kind of recap.
Woo! Recap 1 done.
more to follow.